Hey there, my name is Drew Brashler, and in this video, I'm going to be showing you my favorite plug-in chains with Waves inside of Waves SuperRack Performer using the Behringer X32. If you're brand new to my channel, I'm all about helping you feel more confident in your production gear no matter where you're starting from. So let's go ahead and dive in. Now, I'm utilizing Waves SuperRack Performer with my Behringer X32, and if you have missed a few of my videos on how to get this set up, make sure to go check those out right now. But Waves SuperRack Performer allows us to use Waves plugins on any of our channels on the X32 using a USB cable and the built-in card that is on your Behringer X32. Now, Waves SuperRack Performer allows us to process all 32 channels inside of Waves SuperRack Performer with any of the Waves plugins that we choose using your computer's CPU. There's a slight minimal amount of latency by using this and the Behringer X32, either XUF, XUSB, or the XLive card. Now, we can vary the amount of latency by running a smaller buffer. So here in Waves, if we go to our setup, and to our audio setup, we can change our buffer size all the way down to 32. Now, if we do that, the benefit is we have a shorter amount of latency. However, this is a bigger process task for the computer. Since I am doing a 32 channels and a screen record, I'm going to be having this set to 512 today because I'm just playing back, so it doesn't matter about the latency that's going through Waves. Now, the benefit of having a larger buffer size is that there is less processor task put on. So we can see that I am hovering around 12%. If I change this to 32, my CPU is now sitting at 31, and we can see that the red audio happened, which is bad. So I'm going to change it back to 512, and we will be sitting back in a happy spot for my computer. Now, with Waves, I have all 32 channels going through here. They are patched 1-to-1, and I have my 4 vocals right here. And what I'm wanting to do in this video is show you about my favorite plugins for vocals. Now, the first plugin that we have here is the PSE. Now, the PSE is going to be one of my favorite plugins for a gate. And this allows us to take our range and go anywhere from a few dB down all the way to 60 dB down, and we can adjust it how we want. I typically will recommend starting at 12 dB of gain reduction that will happen with this gate, but we can actually set this today to 20 just because there was a lot of stage noise with these vocals that I'm playing. We have our threshold set here, so we can go anywhere from -60 all the way to 0, and this is basically going to be setting where we want this gate to start working. Now, the other thing that we have is our release times. We have slow, medium, and fast, and this is how quickly is the gate going to close once it's not hearing anything or once that volume drops below this threshold point. The next thing that we have is the F6. Now, my F6 is going to be doing a little bit of adjustment EQ-wise to this vocal. Now, the first thing that we have is our low cut or a high-pass filter, and this is currently set to 80, but I'm going to go ahead and bring this up to about 110. Now, the next thing that I have here is this is an F6. So this is a multi-band dynamic EQ, meaning that I can make EQ adjustments on this. I can go, up and down with my EQ adjustment. But the other thing that I can do with this is I can actually do dynamic EQ, which is basically an EQ adjustment dependent on how loud or quiet this channel is. So depending on my threshold. So we have this threshold here, and we can see that it's set to -31. And when it goes above this threshold point, it will reduce this frequency of 220, and it will take it down up to -4 dB down. So when this vocal starts going in here, what I'm trying to do is just contain a little bit of the low end that kind of gets muddy in a mix, because I want this vocal to be nice and clear coming through. Now, this band 2 is basically just as the singer is going up into his louder points of his vocal, this is just going to be pulling a little bit of low end out of this vocal. Now, when he's quiet, this low end is still in there, which is important. So not only is my F6 taking a low cut out of this, but it's also adding in some EQ adjustment for that. The next thing that we have is my C6. Now the C6 is a multiband compressor, meaning that it takes the entire frequency spectrum of this channel from 20 hertz all the way up to 20 kilohertz, separates it out into 4 different compressors. So we can see that this band right here, this orange, is being controlled here. And so I can go and change where this is being adjusted. So I could have it set to 64 and below, or I can have it go all the way up to 250. So for this vocalist, I have my low band that's right here between, it says 16 hertz, all the way up to 250 hertz. My mid band, which is this green one, is going between 250 and 740. And then this band right here, my purple, is going between 740 and 2K. And then the last band here, this yellow one, is going between 2K and 20 kilohertz. Now we also have these 2 bands of floating compressor, which means that I can go and vary where this frequency is set to. So it's currently set at 195, but I could go and change it anywhere that I want on this spectrum. I'm gonna go put it back to 195 here. So I have 2 of those. Now, within all of these, if I set my release instead of ARC, which is automatic release compensation, which will set my release time automatically, if I set this to manual, not only do I have my attack, which is right here, I have my release time. I also have a range, which allows me to change the amount of compression that I'm applying. But then I also have gain, so I can actually do some EQ with this plugin as well. And then my threshold is set right here. Now we do have knee adjustment, and behavior can either be an electro setting or an optical compressor setting. So I choose to have this on an optical and a knee of 0.2. Now I will go through and show you how I actually have this set up once we get some audio going through here. I then have my CLA-76. Now, the way that I think of this chain is I'm applying EQ, and then I'm applying my multiband dynamics, which is the multiband compressor. Now, that multiband compressor is basically going to adjust depending on where that vocalist is in their vocal range. Some things in their vocal range are going to be louder than other things that he's saying, depending on where his note is in his range. If he's at a lower note that's out of his vocal range or her vocal range, then it's going to be quieter. And then same thing, if it's in the middle of their vocal range, it's going to be a louder note. So what this C6 can do is it can vary the amount of compression that's happening throughout the entire range of that vocalist. Now my CLA-76, this is one of my favorite heavy hitters for my vocals. This is an emulation of the 1176, and if you are used to using the Behringer X32, this would be an emulation basically that matches the Ultimo compressor. But this is the CLA-76 from Waves, and this is a beautiful plugin. So I have my ratio set to 12. Now the attack and release times, if they are set to a lower number, so 1, that is a slower setting. If they are set to a higher number, that is a faster setting. So I have a mid-slow attack, and then I have a fast release on this. And then we have an input and output gain on this compressor. The threshold is set, and so we can either raise the volume of our audio up or down to get more or less compression, and then we can match that with the output gain that is right here. So I utilize this for my in-your-face vocal that's very far forward in the mix. This is the main compressor that I'm reaching for getting that vocal very far forward into the mix. The next thing that we have is the CLA-2A. Now, I utilize this just for the very loud notes that get straight through that 76, just kind of polish it out just a little bit so that there's no words or anything that are coming through to kind of just like spike the mix a little bit. So my CLA-2A, I am usually aiming for about 1 to maybe 2 dB of compression at the very loudest notes when a singer is singing his loudest or her loudest. So throughout all of this, I have my F6, which is just doing a little bit of cleanup. My C6, I'm usually between 3 to 6 dB of gain reduction, depending on where they are, how loud they are singing. My CLA-76, this is going to be anywhere from 3 dB to 10 dB of gain reduction. And my CLA-2A, again, is sitting at 1 to maybe 2 dB of gain reduction. The very last thing I have is Waves Tune Real-Time. Now, Waves Tune Real-Time allows me to do auto-tune on the vocals in real time. Now, this can be a controversial plugin to use depending on your artist and what you are actually mixing, but if you have a conversation with the artist and this is something they are okay with you using, then definitely use it. Now, the one thing that you do need to make sure of is that you are in the same key as the song, or what you can do is you can change your scale to be chromatic, which will tune to the half step. So if you have this set to chromatic, it's pretty good, but if you can find a key that the band is in, then that is going to give you the best result with auto-tune. So in case of this song, we are actually in B flat major. Now, if you're sending all 32 channels from your X32 to Waves SuperRack Performer and back, Waves will end up being before your channel processing. So one thing that I end up doing is if I'm utilizing Waves and sending all of my channels to Waves and then back, I will end up turning off the local dynamics, gate, and EQ that's on the channel. So as you can see, my vocal 1, everything's turned off. So I have my gate, my low cut, my EQ, my dynamics, all of those things are turned off for all 4 of my vocals because I am getting all of my dynamics, EQ adjustments, and gate adjustments from Waves. So I'm not utilizing the board for any of that. I'm doing it all inside of Waves. So let me go ahead and get some audio playing here, and we can actually listen to all of these different things, and I'll put all of them into this mix.
Christ is my firm foundation.
Okay, so right away,
the rock on which
I can go ahead and turn on this PSE.
When everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus.
And later on in the song, we will notice that there's a lot more stage noise. So the next thing that we have is our F6.
So why would he fail now? He won't.
So here is without it.
He won't.
And here it is with.
Still got joy, sing it out.
So it's just removing a little bit of that low end.
In chaos.
Okay. And so the next thing that I have is my C6.
So I won't be going under. I'm not.
And we can actually go ahead and solo each of these sections. So this is going to be adjusting any of the proximity that is happening on the vocal. That's going to be the mid, the higher mid, and the syllables that come through.
He won't.
Okay, so let's go ahead and turn off our PSE.
He won't fail. He won't fail.
Now that's without any band instruments turned on.
He won't. Oh, he won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail.
The next thing we're going to do is activate our CLA-76.
Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand. When everything around me is shaking, I've never been more.
So as we can see, when he said never, it was getting up into a lot of gain reduction there, which is good.
He's never let me down. He's He's faithful through generations.
Now we can activate our CLA-2A.
So why would he fail now? He won't.
So this just really rounds that vocal out.
He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail.
Okay, so the next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to dial in the auto-tune with this. So I'm going to get my vocal one going here with the auto-tune. So I'm going to go in here to my Waves Tune Real Time, and I'm just going to put it in. So here we have the vocal.
So I won't be going under. I'm not held by my own strength, 'cause I build my life on Jesus.
Now I find that our speed of a transition of 50 and the note transition of 50 is actually pretty good. If we really wanted this to be like T-Pain types thing, we would set that to 0. But the downside of that is you definitely hear those note transitions happening. So that's why I run something more in the 50 milliseconds.
He won't fail.
Okay, so here's the rest of the vocals.
He won't fail.
So I'm going to go ahead and turn on our Waves tune for them.
He won't. He won't fail.
And I'll turn them off.
He won't fail. Christ is my firm foundation, the rock on which I stand when everything around me is shaking. I've never been more glad that I put my faith in Jesus. He's never let me down. He's faithful through generations. So why would he fail now? He won't. He won't. He won't fail. He won't fail.
Now, in some additional videos here later in the next few weeks and months, I am going to be putting out a bunch of different videos on each of these plugins, going through every single setting on them and how I get them set for using. But this was a quick video just to show you my favorite vocal processing chain that I use inside of Waves. I love this processing chain because it really clamps down that vocal into a nice package that can just be sent out. Now, if you are running an online stream, having that Waves tune real time, even on the chromatic setting, can really benefit you a lot. Now, when you're sitting in a room and it's loud and there's a lot of reflections and maybe the PA is tuned a little bit poorly and maybe there's a little bit too much reverberation and slap back off of walls and a lot of people singing or talking or a lot of room noise, it's harder to pick out if the notes are in tune or not. So I find that if you're in a room in a loud church service or venue, the notes that are out of tune slightly are going to be a little bit harder to hear. But as soon as you start listening to that online, you will pick them out. Always. Easy, easy, easy. You will always pick out those bad notes. And that's just because it's a little bit easier to hear them when you're on an online stream. So I always try to use Waves real time, even on the chromatic setting when using a stream, if possible. Now, again, you want to verify with the artists or the music director or the band director if it's okay to use autotune. And chances are they're going to be saying yes, unless they have a very specific reason of saying no. So that brings me to the end of this video. I hope this was helpful for you today. If you happen to have any questions, feel free to post that in the comments section down below. Also, if there's a video that you're hoping that I would make on any of the Waves plugins or consoles or anything out there, please put that in the comments section down below, as I'm always reading through those comments to find videos that are going to be helpful for you. If you haven't already, make sure to check out my website at drewbrashler.com, where I have a bunch of articles and tips and tricks for you. And otherwise, I hope you have a great day.